I had seen him many times before, usually in a sexual landscape, in a bathhouse or a party or a park or a bar. He was in his 50s and seemed on the shy side, and he was tall and lean, and he was hung. I remember that. And we never actually had sex, but we would notice each other. Clearly, we were both often available, but we were never exactly what the other one wanted in the moment. And we would pass each other on a shadowy trail or in a dark hall or in a crowd. And there was an acknowledgement between us, a nod or a glance that said, I see you. And there were others like him, but I remember him in particular. So that night, the last night I saw him, the night we laid down together, it was somewhere in 1996. And if you catch me at the right time, I might get poetic and tell you that the West is the place of dropping off and dying. That to stand on a cliff facing west and to watch the setting sun is to watch a thing die. And I might tell you that the West is the resting place of the ancestors. 1996 itself was a cliff facing west. Handfuls of pills were saving lives and cautious hope was in the air. But not everyone was surviving. We most all knew at least one Lazarus, and we most all knew someone that died that year. So some month, sometime in 1996, I was in a bathhouse in Seattle, Washington, when I saw him for the last time. It had been a while since I had seen him, and he was thinner than I remembered and pale. And he was wearing a cheap white towel, as was I, cheap white towels being very fashionable at that particular club that night. And even in the dim light of the hallway, I could tell he looked thin and weak, and his walk was unsteady. I wandered past him a bit stunned, and I heard another catty queen whisper to her friend under her breath, "Dead man walking." Later, I sat across from him in a room filled with mirrors and porn playing on multiple TV screens. I watched him like a voyeur, and I noticed a purple and red splotch on his wrist and another on his thigh. And I remembered those spots on Shimon. I looked across the room, and in a mirror, I saw him and I saw myself. And being caught in the mirror, something happened. I wasn't afraid anymore. I walked over and I asked him if he'd like to lay down with me. And we walked to a small room that had a small bed and a locker. And we laid down side by side. And we touched and we spoke. And the specifics of what happened I have forgotten. But I do remember him looking at me and saying, "You're going to be all right." And I broke open like a balloon. The terror and trauma and fear flowed out of me like water, and he held me, and I cried. And he might have too, but I don't remember. And not long after, I found a boyfriend, and we bought a house on the edge of town. And I wasn't around the hallways and the crowds so much anymore. And when I came back years later, everything had changed. I don't know what happened to him. It's been almost 25 years. I think it's safe to assume that he's traveled to the west, to the place of dropping off and dying. Sometimes around sunset, when I'm feeling poetic, I face the west and I think of him and of Shimon and of the faces and the details I can remember. And I say, thank you, brothers. Thank you.